Hey guys, Enigmatic Mr. L here, and I wanted to make a video where I go over what I think the roster could look like and a potential reboot for Super Smash Bros. So, right off the bat, some people might wonder why go in a reboot direction, and just the basic essentials of it is that less development on the characters means more development for other modes and time better spent elsewhere. This was really prevalent in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, with like the return of every single veteran character, but you also had the fewest number of newcomers at launch. Even if you count like clones, I think that brings the total to like 11 or so. And the original Smash had 12. And just counting like the 5 new clones, you had like 6 newcomers, 6 unique newcomers. One was like a semi-clone, and just 4 new stages. And it is true, reusing assets takes less development time, takes less resources than creating new ones, but it's still a drain on development time. You look at previous things, some of the modes I'd like to come back, like target test, or maybe even something like board the platforms, where it's like a challenge unique to that character that there's a specific way to clear it based around that character's abilities and moves. I think that could be interesting rather than just like the standard generic one that happened in Brawl. That would be interesting. Like Smash Run in 3DS was a good idea. Maybe needed some like refinement, maybe like work on the execution, but just challenging like enemies from all these different franchises. Combine that with maybe something like the Subspace Emissary, maybe just more focus on the individual worlds of like Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, etc., with some unique boss battles. That would be nice. And then just things like trophies. I understand using creating 3D models was like a lot of effort. I kind of prefer them to just like artwork of previous series. But just seeing like, PNG of artwork from the previous series, that was nice too. I just miss the text box. It was like, in like Ultimate, you play like a spirit event, you don't know what the character is, and then you don't really have any way of knowing what they are in the game. You just have to look it up yourself. Brawl, 35 characters, maybe like some semi-clones, I think it was like 35, 36. It had, the boss battle mode. It had an expansive, single-player campaign, like trophies with descriptions. Then again, it's like Smash 4 for Wii U and 3DS. And they didn't custom moves. Some people might like those, want those return as well. Not too big on that one, but some people might like that. I just want to see like a refocus, kind of like Brawl, but kind of combine the best of previous entries. Trophies, or at least something with descriptions of all these like video game like characters. Some you just now learning about. An expansive single player campaign with like enemies from previous series, worlds from previous like series that Smash Bros is comprised of, the crossover, a boss battle mode, and a target test, or just something that puts each character's unique abilities to the test. So the rules for my reboot roster, I'm going to include 26 veterans for the base roster, and this would be the same size, incidentally, as Melee's roster if you count Zelda and Sheik as separate characters. So just kind of fun added challenge on that. If I had to reduce the size of Ultimate now to just the size of Melee, these are the characters I choose. That's going to also include 9 newcomers, total 35 new characters. I might have, stretched the truth a little bit on that. There's like one character who might as well just be a completely new character, reworked. You probably know who it is. It's more like 25 veterans, 10 newcomers in terms of development time, but, close enough. Then I'm going to have like 5 DLC veterans. Ideally, these would just be like free updates. More realistically, they're probably going to be, I would at least hope for like a reduced price compared to the other newcomers, based on the fact that Mewtwo, Roy, Lucas, they cost money when they returned, and Wii U and 3DS. But maybe like a middle ground could be reached, like compared to the other like DLC newcomers, they would at least cost less. And then I'm going to have 10 DLC newcomers. I think like the first game, let's see, it was like Corrin, Bayonetta, Ryu, Cloud. Yeah, Bowser's like 4, I think it was like 7 DLC characters altogether. Ultimate had, 11 plus like 12 if you count like Piranha Plant. So, but they were all newcomers. I'm basically just going to combine those. Like, it basically has 10 newcomers, 10, I think it was originally supposed to be 11 until Sora got added. if you exclude like Piranha Plant, who some people theorize was meant to be in the base game. 10 DLC newcomers, 5 DLC veterans. So that's going to be a total roster of 50, 26 at base, 9 newcomers, 5 returning veterans, but they're going to be DLC, then 10 DLC newcomers. Just my personal preferences before, get on to the list. I'm not going to be including clones. Typically, like in Melee and Smash 4 for Wii U and 3DS, they were added late into development. I'm fine with clones because, they're much easier to create than new character. I just think my roster size going into it is about the same as like Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which had a few semi-clones, but maybe like Toon Link if you count him as a regular clone. But I think it's like reasonable enough to say like you have 35 characters, and that excludes the clones. This is probably a bit more controversial, probably different than many people's lists, but I'm just gonna have less emphasis on like the major big Nintendo franchises already have like a character, plenty of characters, and a greater emphasis instead on the more niche characters. Like basically, just imagine if the first Fighters Pass for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, like we're gonna release 5 new characters, and the first one was Waluigi. People would be happy. People want Waluigi. Don't know how to work with the assist trophy, but people would be fine with that. Then the second character gets revealed. It's like Toad or Captain Toad. All right, it's another solid like all-star cast of the Mario who still wasn't in. It's Toad, maybe like Captain Toad Alt or something like that. Then Geno. People really like Geno for some reason. Then maybe something like Pauline. Maybe then like Fawful or someone else from the Mario series. Like these characters could work on an individual level, but just like if the first Fighters Pass is nothing but Mario characters, people I think would probably say that it doesn't add much variety to the game. And that's just kind of where I am. I don't think you should look at it as, okay, how much sales of this series have? That determines how many characters this franchise gets, and just divide it by that. Because, it could be a series that it has sales. It's very iconic. But you look at the cast of characters, it might have like 3 or 4 characters that like are pretty much in every game, or like have a way bigger role in story, or like more appearances. And the people who come close, like 4th or 5th, the gap between those is so wide. It's like, it's not strictly determined basically by sales, popularity, that sort of thing. It's also determined like, okay, if we wanted the core cast of this game series, who do we choose? Also, I'm not going to be including many third-party characters. I originally kind of conceived just the base roster wouldn't have third-party characters at all. They just come as DLC. I eventually changed that. But just in general, I want to see more niche Nintendo characters make breakouts, like breakout characters. Like we see plenty of examples of characters their popularity earns them a spot in Smash Brothers. I want to see more of kind of inverse happening. We look at characters like Ness, Captain Falcon, Marth, Shulk, Pit, where their popularity is at least in part due to their appearance in Smash Brothers. Like, I believe Earthbound was like the highest selling like virtual console game on like the Wii U. That almost certainly would not have happened if Ness wasn't playable like for his Smash Brothers appearance. Captain Falcon, which still hasn't got a game outside of that one like F-Zero 99 for about like 20 years, but Captain Falcon himself is very popular. Marth getting into Smash Brothers played a large part in bringing Fire Emblem to the West. Pit making it into the Brawl played a large factor in the development of Kid Icarus Uprising. So, basically see pictured here, a character like QB from Box Boy, for as minor and niche as he is, would be more likely to make it into my roster than someone like Doom Guy or Doom Slayer. Now, I know that's kind of a controversial pick, but that's just how it is on my list. One last thing I should note is, if new Nintendo games got released, either like established franchise, which put a greater emphasis on a previous character or a new character, or just like a new Nintendo IP, that could change the list like later down the line. But my list is just kind of assuming like if they were deciding on like the roster like right now based on like current information, who would I think would likely to include? Just before I get into my list, before I may have a lot of cuts to quote unquote justify, I just ask, as always, just please be respectful in the comments. Like, if, one of your favorite characters got cut, it doesn't mean that I hate them, or it's like they're unfit for Smash. They never should have been in Smash. It was just some tough choices had to be made. And Obviously, your roster is going to look a lot different than mine, and that's fair. Good to talk about. Just as always, just please be respectful. Enough delaying. Let's just get into what you all came for. So this is what my roster for a Smash Bros. Reboot would like. You see, up from Mario to me here, that's the first 35 characters that are in the base game. The order might need to do some reworking around. I tried to keep characters together, tried to be like kind of theming, but the order could change a little bit. We have the 5 DLC veterans here and the 10 DLC newcomers here. There are a few situations where I can see one of 2 characters getting in and just kind of put them both. And when we get to those characters, I'll say like, well, character A would work in this sense, character B would work in like another sense, either or. I will talk about when we get to those characters. So starting with the Mario cast, Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Bowser form the core of the Mario series. Like characters like Rosalina, Bowser Jr., Piranha Plant, they're all fun, they're all nice, they have a role, but I don't think their relevance to the series as a whole like holds a candle compared to these 4. I didn't want the roster to be too bloated with too many Mario characters. Wanted, to celebrate having a crossover, had in like many different franchises. I did add in Waluigi. I'm not the biggest Waluigi fan. I'm kind of in the camp. I know people like him unironically. I just kind of like him ironically. Like, I'm just strictly in it for the memes, but I think his inclusion will make a lot of players happy, especially like here in the West. And I do think he has the potential for a very fun moveset. Maybe like something incorporating in a lot of like sports, carts, and like party items. I think that could be fun. I also have the members of the Mario sub-series, Donkey Kong, Wario, Yoshi. I can honestly see a world in which, like, if you're trying to cut down the roster, you would exclude Yoshi, because technically he has his own games. A lot of people just consider him as a Mario character. Make room for others is cut. I wouldn't really blame you on that, but he's been around since the beginning. I think his star in, like, Yoshi's Woolly World, Yoshi's Crafty World, he's been enough of his own games, which I can just barely see him like having his own like series icon, the Yoshi egg. If I had to cut one of three, it'd definitely be Yoshi. But even then, I think he's keeping him fine. Donkey Kong, unfortunately, sacrifices had to be made. We lost Diddy Kong, we lost King K. Rool, just because these characters, they're great, they're fine. Sub choices had to be made, and I just kind of wanted more variety in the roster. Then we got Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. I don't think many people are going to really miss the clones, Young Link, Toon Link, and Zelda hasn't had a newcomer since like Brawl, and even then it was just a clone of Toon Link. I just think you look at these are the 3 pieces, the characters of the bleh. These are the 3 carriers of the Triforce. Courage, wisdom, power. There's like a few characters, maybe like Tingle, but Nintendo's kind of like shying away from using him more recently. He's kind of had more just like cameo appearances more than anything else. Pretty much every other Zelda character is just kind of like a one-off. Like they're important in one game. That's about it. But in general, you do still see some level of support for characters like Skull Kid or like Midna from Twilight Princess or Giraham, or I think that's his name, from Skyward Sword. But just in general, they have their one moment in the sun where like they're not even the protagonist, they're just like a major supporting role or major antagonist. And then they kind of fade away. They're not really important, I think, to the Zelda series as a whole. So I think just having Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf, at least originally, would be fine. Ganondorf, though, I would rework his moveset. He's like the one character I wish would maybe not necessarily designed from the ground up, but just needs a big overhaul on his moveset. Like, I've seen, my fair share of, like, alternatives for Ganondorf. Pretty much all of them, I think, would be better. The funny thing is, like, he started as a clone in Melee, which, okay, made sense. It got him into the roster as a similar build to Captain Falcon. Decloned somewhat in Brawl, Smash 4 was ever. In Ultimate, they gave him, like, sword attacks. They started making more dig, at least for his smash attacks. And then they changed something back as well to make him, like, made some reverts as well to make him more similar to Captain Falcon, which just seemed like a step backwards. I can see a few moves here and there keeping the same as Captain Falcon, maybe just as like a relic's sake. But at the very least, I want like new specials. And honestly, given the choice between like a Ganondorf just slightly updated from Ultimate, or just a Ganondorf wielding like a giant lollipop, as ridiculous as it is, maybe has no source material, would at least make it more unique to Captain Falcon. I would rather have that. Just literally anything other than just a clone of a character or semi-clone of a character that he's not even in the same series in. All right, next we have the Pokemon characters. Pikachu's an easy inclusion, the mascot of the franchise. Greninja is, I believe, like the most popular Pokemon, at least according to like one poll. He ranked number one, or it technically. I can see Charizard or Incineroar making it in. Charizard's definitely more popular, but Incineroar would have more variety, more Pokemon across various generations of Pokemon. Mewtwo is definitely a popular Pokemon, but again, I didn't want to be too saturated as popular as Pokemon is. Lucario is also pretty popular. Mewtwo's probably more popular, but he's another like Gen 1 Pokemon. And Lucario, he is popular. He would add, he's a Gen 4 Pokemon. We have Incineroar from Gen 7, Greninja from Gen 6. But sacrifices, had to be made. Something I'm going to be saying a lot. This Pokeball here just represents a new Pokemon. Like, in general, I think it was in Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS, they put one slot aside for new Pokemon that chose Greninja, which they really had, like, art of him, or maybe like concept art, make a moveset out of. And Smash Ultimate, they set one spot aside for a Pokemon they chose Incineroar. So I don't know who it would be. I don't keep up with the newest Pokemon games. The last main series Pokemon game I played was Sun and Moon. But I don't know who it would be. I just think having a new Pokemon's a pretty safe prediction. Next, we have Kirby and King DDD. It really pained me to not include Meta Knight of the trio with them, but, again, just had kind of, tough choices had to be made. I think I remember seeing one time in, like, Brawl when they did, like, King DD and Meta Knight. One person was saying, like, 3 Kirby characters, one was more than enough. I think, like, back in the day, even some people, like, Kirby's reputation of like Kirby characters was somewhat similar to like Fire Emblems now. Not to the same extent, but they said like it was overkill. Nowadays, I think people have lightened up. I think Kirby and King D would both be welcome additions, if not wanting like more, but we'll get into that later. Fire Emblem lost a lot of playable characters just starting, and like the initial roster, the only one I have is Marth. I think most of the Fire Emblem cast, if you look at their inclusion on an isolated level. Like, just look at like this character's like making it in at the time they make it in, nor like the other Fire Emblem characters in the roster. They do make sense. The problem is they just kind of age. It's like, okay, here's the Fire Emblem protagonist from the latest game. So, okay, it makes sense. Then the new game comes out. We have that one, plus the newest game, plus clones. Like, no one complained when it was just Marth and Roy. No one complained when it was just Marth and Ike. No one would have complained if it was just like Marth and like Robin, but and then Ultimate comes along, brings everyone together. Then like Byleth comes as like DLC. I think if I were to include like 2 more, I think the characters I think that definitely could work the most would be Robin and Byleth, both in terms of their like importance to the series. Awakening was a major like sales booster, a big part in like it's quote unquote saving the franchise. Three Houses was like the best selling Fire Emblem game to date at that time. And their moveset is just unique. Robin with his like magic and weapon durability. Byleth using like the different weapon types. If I had to include 2 more, or I had the opportunity to include 2 more Fire Emblem characters, it definitely would be them. Ike is very popular in the Fire Emblem series, but he's not the most recent protagonist anymore. And while his moveset is not like a Marth clone, it is very similar. And then Korn, kind of same thing, does transform to a dragon for some of their attacks, has some uniqueness to them, but also just in terms of like popularity, they're among like the most hated Fire Emblem lords in the Fire Emblem community themselves. So, yeah, just having Marth here for now. Samus, definitely important enough to make it in. I think Metroid series more popular in the West than in Japan, but popular enough even like overseas as well to have a spot here. Can see maybe them doing something like they did in Brawl, like maybe just something like more free low swap between Samus and Zero Suit Samus. More likely, though, it's probably just going to be just Samus, like Zero Suit Samus. She's fine. She is unique enough from her like regular Samus counterpart. In terms of moveset, they're completely different, like not clones at all. But it's just a version of Samus or a version of Samus just isn't that exciting. So could see something like in Brawl, but maybe something that it's easier to switch between two, but also be fine if it was just Samus in the armor. Fox McCloud, another character I think like if people were like cutting characters like Fox, it's like, well, he hasn't had a game since like Star Fox Zero for the Wii U, which most people didn't like, kind of just a relic at this point. I could see cutting, and that'd be fine. I've also seen people like when they're making some trims and edits to the roster, maybe not like a full-on reboot, just making some cuts here and there. They cut Wolf or they cut Falco, maybe like one or the other, and you still see people here and there wanting more Star Fox characters, or at least they want like Crystal or something. I think just having Fox by himself is fine. He's been in every Smash Bros. Game, kind of more so in some ways, like kind of like Captain Falcon and Ness, more associated with that. But Star Fox, not the biggest series, but I think big enough to have to justify at least including one character from the Star Fox series. All right, next I have Villager from Animal Crossing. Villager and Isabelle are pretty similar to one another, so kind of just chose one. I can see some people choosing Isabelle because in more modern entries, she is kind of like the poster child for the series, but maybe it's just that kind of old school, quote unquote, like boomer mentality in me. But I started with the GameCube one, then I played the, some odd hours, a good amount of the Wii one. I'd just rather choose the one that's been around, had Brown longer, and he is like the protagonist of the series, like the player character, as opposed to Isabelle being a supportive role. Next, we have Inkling. Splatoon is still going strong, having Splatoon 2 and 3 both on the Switch. Solid series, definitely deserves a spot here. I've seen some people suggest the Octolings as a playable character. I think Octolings could work as like an alt outfit, that works, or like a clone or semi-clone. A clone could also work. People have suggested kind of like a semi-clone mentality, maybe something similar to like Villager to, or Isabelle to Villager. I think that can work. So you'd have like some similarities, but enough differences between them. I just think you got better options all around, both in terms of like moveset variety and just like the importance of characters. So you got Shulk from Xenoblade Chronicles. Yeah, I think Xenoblade is definitely popular enough. It's ongoing strong to at least start the game with one character. And I think it makes sense to choose the character from like the first game, been around like in Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS, more connections to Smash, has a unique move set. We could like increase some stats at the expense of others. Pyro and Mythra aren't joining him just because I was like, the funny thing is I've seen some people in their rosters, if you include Pyro and Mythra, some people say like, oh, that's overkill. Xenoblade doesn't need them. And if you cut them out, no, Xenoblade Chronicles is definitely deserving of that. So you can't please everyone. Part of it was just because like tough cuts had to be made, but also part of it, I just don't like Pyro Mythra. They're not the most broken characters. Like Steve can do a lot more, but they just feel kind of cheap to me. And I don't like aspects of their character design. Like some of it I like, the red, it's fine, but some of it just seems overkill, if you know what I mean. Those two really big eyes. Yeah, eyes. Let's go with that. Okay, getting into some of my newcomers. Some of these are going to be controversial picks, but I included Andy from Advance Wars. Advance Wars, or as it's known originally, like Famicom Wars, which someone made a joke like that just goes to show how Nintendo's low costs are, how long it took us to get Advance Wars. But I think it's important to Nintendo series like Nintendo history as a whole to earn a spot here. It, along with putting like Marth and Roy in like Smash Bros. Played a part and getting Fire Emblem over to the West. And I think he could offer a very unique moveset. Like I've seen ideas where I could special summon like tanks and helicopters, that sort of thing. And then the standard melee attacks, he wields wrenches, which damage his opponent, but also if they connect with some of his summons, like as a summoner character, they end up like healing them. Fun moveset, and of course, the Advance Wars like Reboot for the Switch means that it has more relevance like than many other characters can potentially have. If it weren't for that reboot, he'd be a long shot with it. Well, he's still a long shot, but much less so. Next, we have Ayumi Tachibana from Famicom Detective Club. Ayumi was considered by Sakurai to include a melee, but was like quickly dropped in large, partially because lack of familiarity or broad. I think just beyond that, though, she's in a game like not known for combat. Since then, though, we've had the Famicom Detective Club for the Switch, which has improved her fame by however little or however much. It's still added more recognizability to the character. We don't really have a like visual novel or point and click, a character from like a visual novel or point and click adventure in Smash, which definitely isn't an argument that we like need one, but I do think it would be fun to have. It would be kind of difficult, I think, coming up with a moveset for it, Ayumi Tachibana, like a character not known for action, but Sakurai has done like plenty of other characters, like Wii Fit Trainer, or like Pac-Man, or like just a regular like Piranha Plant. He's managed to have like some creative workarounds, which I think you could do. I think you'll get creative enough to make a justified moveset for Ayumi Tachibana. Next, I have Karate Joe from Rhythm Heaven. There is a strong evidence to suggest that, like data mining for Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS, that a Rhythm Heaven character was planned at one point. Likely dropped, at least in part, due to like 3DS hardware limitations, but now a much stronger hardware. I think you could have a chance to shine. Could also be like maybe someone like the Chorus Kids as well. I just think like Karate Joe, he's just built more for combat. I've heard some people suggest I've heard at least like one person say that they'd like a Rhythm character, but not Karate Joe just because he's too similar to Ryu. But Ryu didn't make the cut. Instead, going with another Capcom character. So again, we don't have like explicit confirmation, but there's reason to believe he was considered by, or a Rhythm character in general at least was considered by Sakurai before, and but maybe like dropped due to hardware limitations, and now that wouldn't be an issue. Next, I have Chibi Robo, who by far and away, like a country mile, is my most wanted character for Super Smash Brothers. I know his chances of getting in are about as small as he is. He's like, I think like 10 centimeters tall. But, the sales aren't, that good for a series. But then again, sales aren't everything. You look at Chibi Robo, he's had one game for the GameCube, 2 games for the DS, and 2 games for the 3DS. The most recent of those was 2015. You look at like that information, protagonist of 5 games, most recently in 2015. That fares a lot better than many other characters, either in Smash or like in Smash Brothers, like Speculation. Could have a fun moveset, uses like a gun for his hand. Could also just make I'm really only familiar with like the first Chiro from GameCube. I loved it, played it multiple times, cult classic. Played a little bit here and there of the others. Probably dig into Smash Brothers. He wouldn't just rely on the GameCube. He'd have like a little bit of everything. But they could also do something like they did with Mega Man, like primarily focus on one iteration of him, like in this case, the GameCube version. Either way, would love to see Chibi Robo make it into Smash Brothers. It's like my dream pick. Probably never going to happen, but that won't stop me from ever wanting. I've wanted him since Brawl. He was my one pick I put in like the Smash ballot for like Smash for Wii U and 3DS DLC. It's the only I voted once. I voted for Chibi Robo, knowing he had like not a snowball's chance in like Hades of like ever making it. But I will want Chibi Robo in Smash Brothers until my dying breath. Next, I have Isaac from Golden Sun. Golden Sun is a cult classic. I've seen it's not an overwhelming sport, but like Isaac is, fair contender. A lot of people do want him in Smash Brothers. I think he also offer a really fun, unique moveset. I've played a little bit of Golden Sun, haven't like gotten around to it yet, but I've seen like ideas come up. You could have a moveset and not even like have him wield his sword, which I wouldn't want to go that far. And I'd want him to use his sword for like some attacks, but just like energy, the hand thing, a very good like zoning, like trapping character. There's so much material to work from this game, both in the moveset, would make a lot of fans happy. I think Isaac is a very solid pick if you're looking for like a new Nintendo newcomer. Next, we got Ness, and I guess just lump him in with Captain Falcon together. Both of these characters, they're basically just kept on life support by Smash Brothers. They're kind of floats at the time, but being in every Smash Bros. Game since the original, being the protagonist, like poster boy of each of their series, would be fine. I think if other people like drop them, I would very much understand the reasoning, but I'd want to include them. it was either Ness or like Lucas. Things clear like Ness. He has more history with Smash Brothers, and his game has been released officially here in the West. Captain Falcon hasn't game in 20 years, other than like I don't even know if he's in like F-Zero like 99 free. Like I don't even know if he's in that game, but even so, people love Captain Falcon, love the Falcon Punch, Falcon Kick, like that sort of thing. People would not be as demanding of like a new F-Zero game, I think, if Captain Falcon what never appeared in Smash Bros. I think many people are F-Zero fans, only got into it after they saw Captain Falcon in Smash. I'm not saying all of them, but I think it's fair to say many of them. All right, next I have Takumaru from Mysterious Murasame Castle. So in Smash for Wii U, Brawl on 3DS, like Smash for Melee, Brawl, Wii U and 3DS, it was just kind of tradition to add in like a sort of like retro character. And then of course then like Ultimate came along and like much less newcomers. It made sense why I didn't include them, but a smaller like roster size overall could allow for more of like fun things like this. Takumaru was considered by Sakurai for both Melee and Smash 4 for Wii U and 3DS, but was rejected in large part due to his lack of familiarity like here in the West. Since then, we've had the game released on the 3DS. It's joined the Nintendo Switch Online service in the West. And of course, he's had his appearance as an assist trophy in both Smash 4 and Wii U 3DS and in Ultimate. And I believe like Nintendo Land in Wii U had like a Takumaru section. Plus, he wields a sword. He like traditional like samurai, but I think he also uses like ninja stars. He's built for combat, so I'm not going to say like moveset's already made to be instant, but designing a moveset around him would be easier than it is for many characters. Next, we got like the third-party characters as part of the base game. Sonic, Pac-Man, and Phoenix Wright. As I mentioned like earlier, originally I was going to have it. This is a Smash Bros. Reboot roster. Originally, the first two games, it was only Nintendo characters, so I think if any third-party characters, they had to be DLC, but just not having Sonic in here and, like, to a lesser extent, Pac-Man in the base game, just didn't feel right. Sonic has such a history with Smash Brothers, Brawl, Smash 4 Wii U, 3DS, Ultimate. He's had so many games, either that were Nintendo exclusives, or at the very least, were, like, on Nintendo platforms in addition to, like, the competitors, that many people like consider him a Nintendo character or like strongly associated with Nintendo. At the very least, I'd hope they kind of adjust his moveset at least somewhat. Like, I've heard one idea be that he keeps his top speed, but he needs to build up momentum. His acceleration isn't like instant, so we can't rely on like hit and run tactics. And beyond that, I wish he'd just kind of like spice up his like personality so it doesn't feel as like boring, flat, generic. Like, as annoying as it was, I just love the "you're too slow" taunt. Maybe they didn't have that as like a slur, but anyway, I just want something where you're even just beyond like pure moveset potential, like not moveset potential, just moveset. Something that really brings out Sonic's personality through his taunts and animations. Pac-Man, is a very iconic video game character, and with many people like non-video game fans, just your average Joe, like they know Pac-Man. They don't even know they still make Pac-Man games, but he's still iconic enough, even if it's just like retro to be included. Especially, if Bandai Namco is like plays a major hand developing the next Smash Brothers game. But even if they don't, I think Pac-Man is solid enough to earn a spot. Phoenix Wright from Ace Attorney. Many people probably say if it was Capcom, if I was going to choose a Capcom character, I should probably just stick with the classic, love, like highly requested Mega Man, and that's probably fair, that's probably valid. Just Phoenix Wright, he's kind of a dream pick for me, like a pipe dream, but he is one of the very, very few like third-party characters that I would be actively excited about if they joined Smash Brothers characters. Like other third-party characters, it's like, I'm not going to get upset or anything, but I see like someone gets announced and I'm just like, oh, okay, probably not familiar with the game, or if I am, it's like, whatever. The only other two characters would be like Monokuma, who we'll get to, and Shovel Knight. And Shovel Knight, Western indie character, so, not saying that one's impossible, but I think Phoenix Wright has like a much better chance, just being like, if for no other reason, like and he's a part of a company that has like an established history of working with Smash Brothers. Some people say is like it would be too difficult to have a move set up for him. He was already in like a Capcom versus like Marvel, or is it like Marvel versus Capcom like 3? And it would be too difficult to build something new from that, or that it would just like reference all together. But I've seen various ideas come up with like a Phoenix Wright moveset. I ended up like started working on a moveset myself, which I ended up shelving. But if y'all are interested in that, just feel free to let me know in the comments. The basic gist of it would be that if for his smash attacks, he'd just yell like, you have the speech balloons like, objection, take that, hold it. They'd be very quick for smash attacks, but there's like a catch. If the attack doesn't land, you get one of like Phoenix's like animations, like one where he's like sweating profusely, one where he like smiles sheepishly with his hand behind his head, or one where he's like stunned. And unlike Incineroar's like taunts when he like misses a smash, or which are purely cosmetic, these do leave them open. They have ending lag if they miss, and they can't be canceled. But you could also have some things like the Magatama. You can use that for his grab, and it has the speed of a regular grab, but the range of a like tether grab. But the catch is, if he misses, he ends up taking like damage on himself. In reference to the Magatama, if you misuse it, it hurts your like life bar. Could also give him like a counter with a Magatama that's like has the strongest multiplier effect, but hurts him if he like misses. Beyond that, he could have like a comeback mechanic. Like once he's taken like a certain amount of damage, maybe excluding it from like missing a counter or a grab, there's like comeback mode where he's like Ace Attorney badge acts like a Franklin badge. He just reflects projectiles. His smash attacks become stronger, but they like still miss. If he still misses, he still has like the ending lag for it. And maybe his like third jump, which like I can imagine such just being like a sneeze to recover becomes like much larger. Some other specials, I think in general, would be like a podium, appears for like 5 seconds. You can duck behind, block projectiles, then like disappears, takes like a 7-second cooldown. Tossing evidence in like an upwards, then lowering arc, but like the evidence you get is random. Could just be a stack of papers, could be like a murder weapon. There's definitely potential here. Of like some of the characters, I don't think he's as much of a like unlikely as some other ones I have on here. He could work. I don't think it's super likely, but I'd like for it to happen. And then the last character I have in the base game, I have the Miis. This one might be cheating a little bit because I have them as one character, and as they are now, they're 3, the sword fighter version, the gunner, and the brawler. On one hand, I wouldn't mind if they just combined them into one character, like one Mii, and maybe just rework it so it pulls a lot more from their source material home games like Wii Sports, Tomodachi Life, Miitopia, Street Pass, like that sort of thing. On the other hand, though, like I do understand why when they have 3 separate Mii costumes, kind of like Mii DLC outfits, it's more opportunity for Nintendo to get money. So, either way. Next, we have the 5 veteran DLC characters. First up returning is Pit, a character that many people, they'd be excited to see return, but they wouldn't be like super upset if he's cut. I think it'd be fine. Like here, retro character, but also has like Categories Uprising. A solid enough game. Has like its own has a decent amount of following. A lot of people like it. Meta Knight. If I could have included like one more character in the base game, it probably would have been Meta Knight. But better late than never. At least he'll join the ranks of like the 3 main Kirby characters. Then I have Min Min or Mr. Game & Watch. They both offer something different from the other. Mr. Game & Watch is like a retro character with a lot of like history in Smash Brothers, but his future's he doesn't have a future. He's not reset. He's not going to get any more games. Min Min, it's not likely, but it's still possible they could have like an ARMS 2 or something. And her game is like much more recent, being like 2017, like Switch title. So also it's just the fact of like I have Mr. Game Watch as candidate, but I also have 2 other like retro or like semi-retro characters. So either or. Ridley, there was a huge demand to get him in. Be a shame if that was like lost completely. Couldn't fit him into the base roster, but he'll be joining like Samus as part of like Metroid characters as DLC. Then I have Little Mac. Nintendo like loves to reference this series. Popular enough. The first character to get like quote unquote promoted from a assist trophy position into a playable character, unless you count Charizard as like promoted from summon to playable, but do wish they maybe not like to the extent of Ganondorf, but maybe just give him a sense of like buff some attributes, maybe like nerfing others, so he doesn't feel like as worthless or semi-worthless, but still think it'd be a good choice to bring in. All right, next I have the DLC newcomers, starting with Slime. So he would basically be replacing Hero. And if you look at Square Enix's general history with Smash Brothers, you had Cloud in Smash 4 as a paid DLC, Hero as like paid DLC in like Fighters Pass 1, Sephiroth and like paid DLC in Fighters Pass 2, maybe Sora. I'm not sure if he can. This is really Square Enix. The only exception was Cloud did join the base game in Smash Ultimate, though there are rumors that he was like the toughest character to negotiate. In general, like Square Enix's business model appears to be they want, a service character paid DLC. Maybe they get some sort of royalty thing. I'm not really sure. And even Cloud joining in Smash Ultimate, even joining the base game, you had like pitiful like Final Fantasy like representation in general. Probably a big reason why that Cloud came along. But Slime, I think, could offer a very fun moveset using like all the different types of slime from the Dragon Quest series. I think he serves as more like the mascot for the franchise than Hero. And he would also kind of fill the void left of like, oh, we don't have Piranha Plant anymore, it's a generic enemy. We would have Slime, and it doesn't feel as random as it did with Piranha Plant. Bandana Waddle Dee is a character that many people like request for. Some people just don't get it. He feels just like an OC, like, oh, it's a Waddle Dee, but with like Bandana. Original character, do not steal. I'm kind of the camp that, yes, I don't think Bandana Waddle Dee is like as popular, as iconic as like many characters that have already gotten into Smash. But, yeah, but I think many people who are like Bandana Waddle fans would agree with that. Like, yeah, he's not as popular or, as essential to the roster as characters in, but we're going to talk about newcomers. I think he's a good pick. I do think some of these other picks, I would rather have them just because they bring like a new series to Smash Brothers. But, beyond that, I think if you're looking for new characters to add, he wouldn't be like the top of my list, but as it stands with Super Smash Brothers now, I don't think there are too many characters I think that like outshine him. Next, I have Ring Fit Trainer, a hit game for like the Switch. Probably have a similar moveset to Wii Fit Trainer, but just maybe like add enough like tweaks and like modifications to it to like justify it being like a newcomer. But it's still time kind of fulfilling like the void of like Wii Fit Trainer being cut left. I also just don't think she'd feel like Wii Fit Trainer, like I kind of got used to her, but she still always kind of felt like random and out of place. I don't think it would feel like it just kind of felt like with Wii Fit Trainer that we already had the Mii's. We didn't really need her. This just kind of feels like more bringing a new series or like when it feels out of place. Actually, from WarioWare, Wario's pretty popular. Think like Source Gaming did a video like rate that character where they evaluate chances of like characters making it into Smash Ultimate. Like actually, they said either in the base game as Ultimate, it's not a matter of like if she'll get in, but when. Not super popular. Other characters here, probably some I didn't even include that have more popularity than her, but I think WarioWare is big enough that adding a second character would be fine. Like sales aren't the biggest thing, but it's still like an ongoing franchise. And if they were to add a new character, I could see maybe I could also see 9-Volt, who I think would be pretty fun if they had like all these like old school Nintendo references. But I think Ashley's the more popular of the two. Could use like her magic in interesting ways. I think would be a fun addition. Next, I have the protagonist from Pikmin 4. I think Lisa is her default name. Again, kind of like Rethink Trainer. Would be similar to Olimar, uses Pikmin, that sort of thing. But I can definitely see some revamps to a moveset here to warrant like being included like with newcomers. Maybe make use of that yellow dog thing. I can't remember the name of. It's like part of a moveset. Would be pretty fun. Pikmin isn't a big enough franchise to, I did, strongly consider including the base game. I'm sure I could do this instead, like as a clever workaround, like as a loophole. But adding a new Pikmin character seems fine. Next, I have Impa from The Legend of Zelda. Now, she's definitely not as most prominent between like these three, Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. But you have Link, Zelda, Ganondorf, big gap, Impa, maybe like Tingle, then big gap between like everyone else, just like one-off characters. If they were going to add a new Legend of Zelda character, I think many people are campaigning for like whoever the current like character in Breath of the Wild 2 is. I haven't played that game. But I think Impa has like the most reoccurring, like long-running history in the series. I think she could work. Wouldn't necessarily be like a Sheik clone. Could do enough of her own unique thing. Maybe like similar, like high speed, low strength. But in terms of moveset, especially if they pulled from Warriors, although I think especially if they pulled from Warriors, she could do a lot more neat things. Even if they don't, which understandably so, I think that was named like developed by Koei Tecmo, so they wouldn't has the rights. But if we pull from like Impas across the series, I think it'd be a fun addition. Next, I have the protagonist of Astral Chain. I believe you choose the gender of the character and you choose their name. Whichever one you don't is like your sister who has the name of Kira Howard. I'm not sure what the name would be if they choose Kira Howard or just like Cadet or something. I've seen like videos like here and there could offer like unique moveset. I'm not really sure if Astral Chain is Nintendo, but I think it's something like Pokemon or like Fire Emblem, where it's like technically not Nintendo, but like so associated with like second party. I think would like fit in with like Nintendo All Stars. Next, I have Anna from Fire Emblem. Again, keeping like the line theme, it could see something kind of like Violet, where she uses like a variety of weapons. I just think in general she'd be a good fit as like a Fire Emblem Smash Bros. Character because she's not going to be outdated. Like Roy joins, makes sense at first, but he's not the newest protagonist anymore. Ike joins, makes sense at first, not the newest protagonist, like etc. Marth and Anna are pretty much the poster characters for the series. She appears in pretty much every game except I think like the Valentia ones, like Gaiden and Shadows of Valentia. But just having that prominent role means like, you know, her inclusion makes sense at a time of inclusion, and it's something that always going to make sense when she like if she returns as just a major character. Yeah, I think Anna probably makes the most sense for a Fire Emblem newcomer. Next, I have Noah and or Mio. I'm not the biggest Xenoblade Chronicles fan. I think the series is popular enough to add someone like not just Shulk. Of the two of them, I don't know if it'd be Noah with Mio supporting. I don't know if Mio with Noah supporting. I don't know if it'd be some sort of like tag team or swap duo. I just think one of them could make it in and be a good choice. And lastly, I have Monokuma or Master Chief. Probably two very strange choices to have. Of the two of them, I think Master Chief would have like a bigger hype factor, even if it is derived like almost entirely in the West. Like bringing a Microsoft character, pretty much the mascot of like Microsoft. Like Banjo-Kazooie was kind of like a rare character. Steve was kind of like, I think it was originally like an indie game, like Swedish. Master Chief is more associated with Microsoft. If they got to work with like both Steve and Banjo-Kazooie, they might be able to do it with Master Chief as well, bringing in a first-person shooter character. I wouldn't really care that much. I'd be way more excited for like Monokuma personally. Like his games also like more recently appeared on the Switch. Would bring like a new Japanese developer on the team with like Spike Chunsoft. Either way, they definitely moves that potential. They made Snake and characters like Bayonetta and Joker work with their guns. They could work around Master Chief. And there have been characters from M-rated games, maybe the series as a whole, or maybe like the game they're from. Depending on what they do with Monokuma, I think they get it to work. So that's my roster in a nutshell. Thank you so much for watching. And this is Enigmatic Mr. L signing out.